Department of Homeland Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas should be impeached. He needs to be impeached because he is a flat out liar. And I'm not afraid to say it. He's lying about everything. That is what we're going to be talking about. He's lying about the border. He's lying about his the agents that are working underneath him. He's lying about what they have to deal with every single day. He's lying, more importantly, to you, the American people who are writing his paycheck. And that is unacceptable. And I've been through this. I've heard liars over and over and over again covering the border. You know, our bureaucracies are just made up to cover up. That's what I think now. You know, made up to cover up. Just find a way to cover up. You're a great employee. But the thing is, sometimes things get so bad. Sometimes the abuse is so obvious, the suffering and the horrors of what we are witnessing at the border. Sometimes it is so much so that you just got to say, you know what? You know what, bro? You're out of here. I'm done with you. You're a liar. We've seen that with this White House over and over again, but sometimes it just gets to be too much. I have seen this with my own eyes. I've been down to the border, back and forth. It's practically a second home. You know, it's practically a second home. I was talking to someone today that was, I think is somebody that I have a lot of respect for. And is a friend of mine. And I was saying that this is so overwhelming sometimes. You get down to the border and you see it. You see the children, you see the women, you see the people that are barely making it across, especially when the heat out here is so much to bear that you can barely walk another 5 feet because you're so thirsty. I've seen this when people are so parched that their skin is cracked and bleeding, that their noses are bleeding because their blood has gotten so thin from the narcotics, by the way, that the cartels shove down the throats of some of the people that they're trafficking, just so that they can continue walking to make it into America in a certain amount of time. It's horrifying. And sometimes when you see those children and you know, wow, I know what you've been through, and I'm so sorry that you've been through that. And I'm so sorry that there are so many adults in this world that really do not care about you at all, that they allowed this to happen to you. And I'm sorry that part of that is our government's fault because they are allowing our border to become a complete and utter mess. That is why I was so grateful to watch Senator Ted Cruz, to see Senator Kennedy, to see the others stand up to Mayorkas and call him out as I would have called him out, because they've actually seen it. I've actually been to the border with Senator Cruz. I've been on Codell's with him. I've been on Codell's with other senators, Senator Kennedy as well. And I loved how Senator Kennedy walked up behind Mayorkas at one point and just put his hand on Mayorkas's shoulder during the testimony. He's just like a badass, just like, I am in charge of you. And you are going to answer my questions, and you are going to stop lying, and you're going to stop lying to the American people because you owe them the truth. You don't need to cover up for a failed Biden administration. I have that clip. I want to share it with you of Mayorkas getting reamed by these senators. But first, I want to tell you about Allegiance Gold. Allegiance Gold is an organization that you need to know about right now. Why? Because as you watch what is happening to our banking systems, as you see what's happening in the United States of America, I can't believe how upside down everything is right now. China is on the move, folks. China is on the move. Don't trust me? Just read the news. Their Road and Belt Initiative, they are spreading across the globe. They are forcing and basically strong-arming some nations into dealing with just their currency, right? With their monetary currency, which is just has nothing to do with us. People are going to be dependent on China. And what's going to happen to the US dollar? Well, guess what's going to happen to it? It's going to go straight down the drain. I'm telling you, We are literally in a threat of that happening. But right now, you can back that all up because you can get $5,000 of free silver on a qualifying purchase when you tell them that Sara sent you. Just tell them Sara sent you. This is Allegiance Gold. Allegiance Gold. Love this organization. And my friends there can help you protect your IRA, your 401k with physical gold and silver, or have it delivered securely right to your door. Unlike the banks, which, by the way, we saw what happened in Canada too, where they were just shutting down people's accounts and punishing people who were donating to the truckers. Remember that? Remember the freedom convoys? That's what they were doing. Well, this won't happen with Allegiance Gold. Right now, you can get $5,000 of free silver on a qualifying purchase when you tell them that Sara sent you. So don't wait. Call or click today. 877-702-7272. That is 877-702-SARA. SARA, no H. SARA, or go to protectwithsara.com. That's protectwithsara.com. We can't control the Biden administration, but we can prepare. 877-702-7272. That's 877-702-SARA or protectwithsara.com. So I want to talk a little bit about Senator Cruz, but first I think what we need to do is play this clip of him questioning Alejandro Mayorkas and just how brilliant he is at doing this. He really makes Mayorkas, sweat. There's no other word to describe this. Senator Cruz is making him sweat because why? Because he's actually asking him questions that have to be answered. And when you're lying, you're sweating because you're just trying to beat around the bush. You're trying to cover up. Just watch this for yourself and then we'll talk about it.
What are these wristbands?
I don't know what they are.
You don't know what they are. Mr. Secretary, you have just testified to the American people you're incompetent at your job because I've been to the southern border. And if you go to the southern border, along the southern border, you see thousands of these wristbands because the illegal immigrants wear them. The drug cartels, every color corresponds to how many thousands of dollars they owe the cartels. You have turned these cartels into multi-billion-dollar criminal organizations. And these are modern-day leg irons because these are children being sold into sex slavery, and you don't even know what they are. That is astonishing. Mr. Secretary, how many children have been sold into sex slavery under your administration?
Senator, we are taking it to the cartels.
How many children have been sold into sex slavery? Do you know how many children have been sold into sex slavery?
To an unprecedented degree.
Mr. Secretary, I want to say to you right now, your behavior is disgraceful, and the deaths, the children assaulted, the children raped, they are at your feet, and if you had integrity, you would resign. And I will tell you, the men and women of the Border Patrol, they've never had a political leader undermine them. They despise you, Mr. Secretary, because you're willing to let children be raped to follow political orders. This is a crisis, it's a disgrace, and you won't even admit this human tragedy is a crisis.
Claiming 1 minute chairman time, Mr. Secretary, would you like to respond to any of those questions?
What the senator said was revolting. I'm not going to address it.
Your refusal to do your job is revolting.
Oh, that was so good. That was so good. That is absolutely true. Mayorkas' refusal to even address the simplest questions or the anger felt by Senator Cruz, which was justified, was absolutely disgusting. He didn't know what those bracelets were or are. I broke that story on Sean Hannity on Fox News more than a year ago. I was standing on the border. I'm saying, look, they're shackling these children now, these people with these bracelets. I remember we were out there, Fox, Bill Malutian was out there too. We were all out there. And these bracelets were just littering the whole area around the Rio Grande. I mean, you couldn't even walk a few feet without finding a bracelet. Different colors. Some of them were interesting because they had different little sayings on them. And the most, I think, expensive movement of traffic were these ones that literally had a devil on them. little devil bracelet. And I do have those with me here. They are actually in a box since I've moved to Texas, and I can't take them out to show you if you're watching YouTube right now. I would love to be able to show you all the ones I have because I have bags of them. So how is it possible that I have bags of those bracelets that I watched as children came across the river, and those bracelets were cut off of them, or they had them in their pockets trying to hide them, or their parents threw them on the edge of the riverbank? How is it possible that I saw those yellow, red, blue, purple bracelets, some of them with little devils on them, some of them had different signs, some of them had different monikers for the cartels that were bringing them across, all of which, Senator Cruz is right, those bracelets show a variety of monetary payments that were made for their trafficking. Children are being sold in the United States for sex. Yes. I'm sorry if that bothers you. I'm sorry if you don't want to hear that. For those of you that do want to hear it, please, please take action. Say something. Say something. Contact your lawmakers. Say this is unacceptable. People are also trafficking narcotics. Our children are dying. They are being poisoned. Why are we allowing this to happen? I'm going to tell you, when Senator Cruz talked about, Border Patrol agents being disgusted with Mayorkas, he is not lying either. He is telling the truth. I can't even begin to tell you how many Border Patrol agents I speak with, how many people I speak with on the border that work in law enforcement that are absolutely disgusted with the Department of Insecurity. The Department of Homeland Insecurity. That is exactly what it is. It is an embarrassment. And I'm going to tell you why it's so shameful, because this DHS, this Department of Homeland Security, was established after September 11th. I want you to think about this. So that our agencies would better communicate with one another in an effort to prevent another September 11th. Because what did they realize during the 9/11 Commission? They realized that our agencies were not sharing information appropriately. And here we have the top dog, apparently, of the Department of Homeland Security, who doesn't even know that the people being trafficked into our country are being tagged by drug cartels and being utilized as slaves, both in the United States and overseas, and their children are being sold to monsters in our country that are raping them and harming them, and God only knows doing what else to them. And by the way, even if it was just one child, it would still be disgusting. But folks, it's a lot more than that. It's a whole lot more than that. I often imagine, and maybe it makes me a little bit crazy, but I think about this sometimes because I really want to understand how this is okay, how we can just know things like this are happening and walk away from it. But I often imagine when, Chris Olivares, Lieutenant Olivares, sends me photographs of the children that they've rescued on the border, the ones being snuck in, what it must have been like for that 8-year-old girl sleeping in the back of a trunk of a car, being held in the back of a trunk of a car, face down, all those hours, just wondering where she was going to end up or who she was going to end up with, or a 3-year-old boy or a 6-year-old, any boy or girl, any child, what it must be like for them not being with a parent or guardian that wants to protect them, but being with a stranger that could care less about their physical, emotional, or spiritual well-being, actually being with a monster. Can you imagine that? Just for one moment, just put yourself in the shoes of that child and then listen to the bullshit that's coming out of Alejandro Mayorkas' mouth and his refusal to address those questions, that's pretty devastating to me. And I've seen it so many times that I just can't remain quiet. We have to hold these people accountable. We have to have lawmakers like Senator Ted Cruz who hold them accountable, right? And when I talk to Border Patrol agents on the border and they tell me, hey, guess what? You know what? I've retired on the job. I'm not gonna do this. I'll rescue people, but I'm not gonna go out of my vehicle and chase someone down when I don't have backup. Because guess what? The Department of Homeland Security run by Mayorkas, that department will not back me up when everything goes sideways. Anytime you guys see a Border Patrol agent out there or a law enforcement official, and you just see them in a restaurant or you see them at the airport, please just go up and say thank you to them. Please just tell them how much you appreciate what they do for you and for our country. They deserve that. Folks, I want to talk to you a little bit about fast-growing trees. Fast-growing trees, I want you to be able to breathe some life into your own backyard, much like I'm doing here in Texas. So when I want to take a break, these are heavy-duty stories, right? These are heavy-duty stories. And when I want to take a break, I like to go out to my garden and I like to plant trees and vegetables and flowers, and I try to give that's like kind of therapy for me, right? So I do that with fast growing trees as well. Listen, fast growing trees is amazing. You can put your order in online. You can tell them the area that you live in the country. Think about this. And they do it all for you. It's like having your own nursery service at your fingertips, right? Makes life so much easier, and they're delivered right to your door, right to your door. Right now, with fast growing trees, you have a 30-day Alive and Thrive guarantee. You're not going to get that anywhere else. You know everything's going to look great fresh out of the box. So folks, join over 1.5 million happy fast growing tree customers. Go to fastgrowingtrees.com/Carter now to get your 15% off your entire order. Get 15% off your entire order at fastgrowingtrees.com/Carter, fastgrowingtrees.com/Carter. My husband and I, we were actually talking about this morning as well, about, he was saying, it's so hard for him to hear the stories about children. And I cover these stories quite often. And he just says, sometimes it's just beyond him. Like he has to just, he wants to just walk away, but he knows he can't because he just feels so helpless. He's like, I just feel so helpless because I want to be able to help these kids at the border. I want to be able to stop what we're seeing happening to our own children. And I just feel like, he was a war fighter for a lot of years, folks, over 35 years, right? He's been in the war zones. He's been fighting the bad guys. But there's nothing more horrific than when you punish an innocent child, when you turn your back on innocence, that a child that is helpless, that has no way of fighting back, no concept or understanding of the world around them, and all of a sudden, we're a part of that horror because we're allowing it to happen. We are allowing it to happen. It's the reason why we have to wake up. It's the reason why we have to not be afraid to tell those stories. And, I know it's hard. Sometimes people say, well, the Border Patrol agents, I've had a lot of them talk on background. I've done it both on Fox and in stories since I've been working. It's very difficult for them to, sometimes come forward. And actually, I just got a call from one of the wives of a Border Patrol agent. These are Border Patrol agents that are, fighting the good fight every single day. But they don't want to lose their jobs. They can't afford to walk away from the BP. So they find other ways of getting the truth out. And many times that's very subversive. They leak documents, they talk on background, they're doing everything they can to get the American public the truth. So when Senator Cruz says that the Border Patrol agents are disgusted with Mayorkas, yes, I have not met one Border Patrol agent who is not disgusted with what is happening. And I want you all to remember that Chief Raul Ortiz, head of the Border Patrol, finally just broke from the ranks and said, yes, we do not have operational control of this border. He said that earlier this month at a border hearing. By the way, no Democrats showed up for that border hearing, only Republicans. Even Democrat witnesses showed up for that border hearing, but the Democrats didn't. And I don't understand that, because this should definitely be a bipartisan issue. Solving this crisis for the American people should be a number one issue for all of us. And more importantly, for our lawmakers, none of them are immune from the border. None of them. Democrats or Republicans, drugs are flowing across our country, killing our children. We have children being trafficked in our nation. We have our law enforcement and our government officials, our Border Patrol agents, our ICE officers, our DEA, our FBI, everybody's time, energy consumed by border wars. And they're fighting over our territory to kill our own people. And Mayorkas had no idea what those bracelets were for. What a joke. Seriously, I would have been as disgusted as Senator Cruz with Mayorkas. I would have been as disgusted. I often think about like what happens to us when people fail to follow through with their jobs. And you don't have to go far, right? You could just look in your own communities. I don't even need to point out Philly to you, or like the zombies walking around on the streets of Philly and with, filled with fentanyl and xylazine, and the innocent children that have died here in the state of Texas as well, from taking a Percocet over the counter, from a Mexican pharmacy, and all of a sudden their parents don't see them ever again in their life. All you have to do is go out into your own community and look around and see what and how the failure of these government imbeciles, who, by the way, did you guys know that Mayorkas makes roughly $200,000 a year? For doing what? For doing what? For being a complete and utter failure? Those are your tax dollars. So while you may be making $50,000 or $36,000 or trying to make ends meet, or $100,000, I don't care. Mayorkas is making $200,000 a year of your money, of your hard-earned dollars, doing absolutely nothing but kissing Biden's ass and covering up for him. So that's what we're basically paying for. Sorry to be so blunt. So now, what do we do? Well, we're not going to just cry about it. We're not going to just throw up our hands in the air and say, well, there's nothing we can do. This is once again, American swamp creatures at their best. No, we can actually do something. You and I have the power to take our nation back. I'm going to say it over and over again. You and I have the power to take our nation back. We have to make it very clear that these folks will be fired. Fire them. Tell your senators, tell your House representatives, tell them that you no longer want this, that you no longer accept this, that is no longer acceptable to you, and that they've got to do something about it, or you'll vote them out of office too. Guys, thanks so much for being a part of this show. If you want more information on the border, if you want to read the full gamut of stories about what is happening at our border, go to saracarter.com. That is saracarter.com. We've got great writers there. We're trying to build up on that website. Also, go to Dark Wars Podcast, the Dark Wars Podcast. We are doing another great episode on there. We're going to have that out soon, I hope. And folks, I just want us to be educated. I want us to protect our nation. We are warriors for America. We are warriors fighting for truth. And speaking of truth, follow me on truth at Sara Carter Official, on Twitter at Sara Carter DC, and on Instagram at SCarterDC. God bless you. God bless our great nation. And God bless the great state of Texas.